the world's great novels. This is the story of Michael Henchard, a man of character. He was strong and yet weak, turbulent and yet calm, hard and yet sentimental. And among the farming people of Wessex 100 years ago, he lived by his deeds and died by them and was judged for them. The NBC University of the Air brings you the third of a 5-part radio edition of Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, another in the series of books that live, the world's great novels.
A long time ago, Michael Henchard had sold his wife and daughter to a sailor named Newson. Many years later, Newson was reported lost at sea, and Susan Henchard and her daughter sought Michael out at Casterbridge, where he was now a rich corn merchant and the mayor. Henchard, struck with remorse, remarried Susan and renounced his clandestine affection for Lucetta Templeton. Meanwhile, Henchard had hired a young Scotsman, Donald Farfrae, as his superintendent. For a while they were close friends, but as time went on, the able young Scot became immensely popular and highly respected in Casterbridge, and Henchard, wrongly suspecting Farfrae of trying to undermine his prestige, finally discharged him. Our story goes on now as Donald Farfrae prepared to leave Casterbridge. But then Elizabeth Henchard came to see him.
Donald,
Aye, Elizabeth?
be there no chance of reconciliation twixt thee and my stepfather?
None. I'm afraid we have broken for good.
What will thou do now?
Well, I've always wanted to go see the world, to travel.
No, Donald, do not go. Stay here, in Casterbridge.
Stay here? Why?
Because I beg thee to.
Elizabeth, what do you mean?
I just do not want thee to go. Oh, Donald, what shameful talk be this. Have I been too bold?
No. I wish I could be bold and say what is in my heart. If I had not quarreled with your stepfather, if I were richer than I am, I would say it no. But I haven't the right. I cannot.
I know. But, Donald, it will not go away. They'll stay.
Aye, Elizabeth. If you so wish it, I'll stay in Casterbridge.
Thus, Donald Farfrae made his decision. And having made it, he bought out a small corn and hay business and set up a trade of his own on Durnover Hill. When Michael Henchard heard of it, his face became purple with anger, and he took it as a personal insult. He called in his daughter and spoke his mind to her.
The gall of that young whelp. Why, I befriended him, helped him to make a living, called him friend. And now he sets up business in competition to me.
Still, I think not he did it for any personal motive, Father. 'Tis the business he knows best.
Do you take me for a fool, Elizabeth? Do you not think I know what he's up to? He's out to harm me in any way he can. But I'll have a tussle with him, I will.
Father, I do not think you're giving Donald Mr. Farfrae fair chance.
You seem to take his side, Elizabeth.
No, it be not that, only...
Look here, child. I know you've been seeing that young stripling now and then. But you have not made him any promise, have you?
No, I've promised him not.
Good. All's well that ends well. I particularly wish you not to see him again. Well?
If that be your wish, sir.
It is. I consider him my bitter enemy and yours.
Henchard wrote a note to Farfrae forbidding him to see Elizabeth. The young Scot, not wishing to get Elizabeth in trouble with her stepfather, took it at face value. and the incipient romance died down. But the rivalry of the two men flared higher than ever, and they closed in mortal commercial combat. And the whole town of Casterbridge talked about it.
I'll do my corn trading with Farfrey now. The young feller's sharp and fair alike. He's bound to come up, mark me.
Aye, perhaps young Don'll be better man. But Mayor Henchard's got the capital and credit. He can outbid and outsell the Scot. I'll stick with Michael Henchard.
Them both be honest and fair when it comes to hay and wheat. But the nub of the difference be this. Varfrey deals smile along with his wheat, and Henchard sours grain with his scowl.
Little by little, Donald Farfrey began to give Henchard serious competition, and the town itself split into two camps. Henchard fought savagely with every trick he knew, trying to drive Donald into bankruptcy, but the young Scot took every blow and kept on coming. Then, suddenly, tragedy struck in the Henchard household. While Henchard himself was away on a business trip, Susan Henchard suffered a serious stroke. By morning, she was close to death, and she called for her daughter.
Elizabeth? Elizabeth? Aye, Mother, I'd be right by thee. Oh, my dearie, little daughter. I have only little while longer. Mother, thou must not say it. You must try to sleep now.
I'll be not afeard to go, Elizabeth. But 'tis thee I'll be feared to leave as things be now. Child, listen.
Aye, Mother.
Under pillow, let her be for a stepfather.
Aye, Mother. Here, I have it.
Read what it says on outside.
Mr. Michael Henchard, not to be opened until Elizabeth Jane's wedding day. Mother, what be it? What?
Give it to him. He will tell thee at proper time.
Mother?
And thus the woman whom Michael Henchard had once wronged passed into another world, leaving him free again. As for Elizabeth, she had always supposed herself to be the daughter of Richard Newson, the sailor, and while her mother had been alive, she had never been told her real parentage. But now, Michael Henchard felt that the time had come.
Elizabeth, do you think much of old times?
Aye, sir, often.
Who do you put in thy pictures of him?
My poor dead mother and my father, lost at sea.
I see. Thy father. Was Newson a kind parent to thee?
Aye, sir, very.
Elizabeth, child, suppose I had been thy real father.
Thee, sir?
Aye. Could he care for me as much as he cared for Richard Newson?
I do not know. Why do we ask?
Because, Elizabeth Jane, thy blood is my blood. I be thy real father.
It was then that Michael Henchard told Elizabeth the full story. She listened in stunned silence. Then she burst out in a fit of weeping.
No, child, do not cry. I cannot bear it. Why should he cry?
I cannot help it.
I be thy father, and I be here alive. Be this cause for sorrow, child? Be I so dreadful, so hateful to you?
No.
Do not take against me, Elizabeth Jane. I'll be kinder to you than Richard Newson ever was. I'll do anything if you will only look upon me as thy father. Do ye not see, daughter? You be all I have in the world now. Now that thy mother be dead, there be no need to keep the secret any longer. You'll change thy surname from Newson to Henchard, of course. My name belongs to ye now, right and proper.
Is that wish it?
I do. Thy mother was always against it, but it will be much more pleasant to me.
I wonder why Mother was against it.
Oh, some whim of the poor soul, no doubt. But now, child, go to bed. It's been a difficult day.
Good night, Father.
Good night, daughter.
That night, Henchard looked at the letter which Elizabeth had given him, the letter from his wife as she lay on her deathbed. The seal had cracked open, and although he was not supposed to open the letter until Elizabeth's wedding day, Henchard's curiosity was intrigued. He resisted for a while, but the broken seal caught his eye again. Finally, he unfolded the letter and began to read.
My dear Michael, when you read this, I shall be in my grave, and Elizabeth Jane will have a home of her own. This is a confession of a secret I have kept from you till now. Forgive me, Michael. I have done it for the best, and now I can hardly tell you. But here it is.
You see, Michael, Elizabeth Jane is not your Elizabeth Jane, the child who was in my arms when you told me. Nay, she died 3 months after that, and Elizabeth you now know is Richard Newson's daughter. I christened her by the same name as the other, and she filled up the age of my loss. Michael, I am dying, and I might have held my tongue, but I could not. Please try to forgive if you can a woman thou once deeply wronged, as she forgives me. Susan Henchard.
For a while, Michael Henchard sat there like a graven image, staring at the letter as though it were a window pane through which he saw for miles. Now he understood why Susan had been against Elizabeth's changing her name from Newson to Henchard. Now he knew what suffering was. Henchard felt himself alone. His wife was dead, he had no children, and his best friend, Donald Farfrae, had become his mortal competitor. He was in the mood to snatch at any straw of human companionship, and suddenly he thought of Lucetta Templeton, the woman he had considered marrying before Susan had come back to him. Feverishly, he wrote her a letter informing Miss Templeton of his wife's death and begging her indulgence again if she was still interested in him. As for Elizabeth Jane, she was hurt and bewildered by Henchard's sudden coolness. Almost overnight, he had changed from a tender father to a hostile stranger. And as the days went on, it grew worse and worse.
Father, if you bide where you be a minute, I will get the breakfast.
Bide where you be. Good heavens, girl, what manner of speech is this? Are you only fit to carry wash to a pig trough that you use such words as those?
I'm sorry, Father. I meant stay where you are.
Well, where have you been dawdling this time?
Why, I was just walking in the churchyard, Father.
Will you stop calling me father? Father. Begad, it's beginning to hurt my ears. And I'll thank you not to use it so free.
As life in Henchard's home grew more and more unbearable, Elizabeth, depressed and downhearted, took to visiting her mother's grave in the churchyard. She was standing there one afternoon, silently contemplating the tombstone, when a beautiful and fashionable lady, a stranger to Casterbridge, came up the walk.
Good afternoon. Oh, I did not see thee. Good afternoon.
I'm sorry if I startled you.
Oh, 'tis all right.
This grave, is it your mother's?
Yes.
Then you must be Elizabeth Jane Henchard, eh?
Why, yes. How did I know?
I knew your father a long time ago.
Oh, I see.
Has he made you unhappy, too?
Why, I seem to read my mind.
No, not exactly. You see, Mr. Henchard has a way of making the women he knows unhappy. Still, he's not a bad man at heart.
Oh, no, certainly not bad.
Yet he had been unkind to you.
Yes, but not till lately. Until after Mother died. You'll be stranger hereabouts, aren't you?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I only arrived yesterday. My name is Lucetta Templeton.
Lucetta Templeton. It is a pretty name.
Your father, Mr. Henchard, never spoken of me?
No. He rarely speaks to me of anything nowadays.
Look here, Elizabeth Jane. It's plain you're not happy in his house. Would you like to come and live with me?
Live with you?
Yes, I know this is quite sudden, but you see, I've rented High Place Hall, and I shall be living in Casterbridge for a time, and I should want somebody to live with me. Partly as housekeeper, partly as companion.
Oh, Miss Templeton.
It would give you a chance to be independent, you know.
Oh, yes. Yes, it would be wonderful, Miss Templeton. But I would have to ask my father.
Of course. I understand. Suppose you ask him tonight, and let me know in the morning.
At that very moment, when Elizabeth Jane and Lucetta Templeton met in the churchyard, Henchard was in his office reading a note from Lucetta in which she informed him she'd come to live in Casterbridge and was quite willing to resume their old friendship. She warmly invited him to visit her at High Place Hall. This news came as a pleasant surprise to Michael Henchard. He was a lonely man, and Lucetta could dispel that loneliness. There was only one fly in the ointment, Donald Farfree. He was the only man who knew of Henchard's relations with Lucetta, and the mayor cursed his brash folly in confiding the affair to the young Scot when they'd first met. That evening, Elizabeth Jane approached him.
Father.
Aye? What is it?
Have you any objections to my going away?
Going away? No, none whatever. Where are you going?
I have been offered chance in household where I can learn something of refined life.
I see. And I say take it and make the best of it. In fact, I'll help you along, give you a small annuity so you'll really be independent. Would that please you?
Yes, Father, if you so wish it.
I do. When shall you be leaving?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Oh, Caesar, you take time by the forelock. Well, have your own way. By the way, where will your new position be?
High Place Hall.
High Place Hall?
Why, yes, Father. What is wrong?
Nothing. You just took me by surprise, that is all.
So Lucetta Templeton had taken Elizabeth Jane into her employment. The news made Henchard uneasy. To his masculine mind, this maneuver smacked of some kind of feminine trickery. And on his first visit to Lucetta, he broached his question.
Look here, Lucetta. There is something I do not understand. Why did you take in my daughter as your companion?
Well, you see, Michael, I met your daughter quite by accident in the churchyard.
Huh?
It seems that you've been unkind to her. And being a woman myself, and knowing what it is to be without love, I took compassion on her.
Now then, Lucetta, you don't need to play buff with me. I know you well, and I know that what you've done is to your own advantage. What is the real reason you took on Elizabeth, Jane?
Oh, Michael, you men are so simple. Can't you see? Your wife has only recently died, has she not?
Aye, but what is...
And as mayor of Casterbridge, it wouldn't look right and proper to visit a lady so soon after your good wife's decease. Would it?
No, to be sure it would not.
But can anyone object if a father comes to see his daughter, as a father should?
Huh?
Of course, she's at my house. And if I happen to be around every time you call, that's natural enough, isn't it?
By gad, Lucetta, you are a clever minx. Of course. What is more right and proper than for a man to pay a call on his own daughter as often as he pleases?
Now, it so happened that Henchard, after discovering that Elizabeth Jane was really the daughter of Richard Newson, had written a note to Donald Farfrae, giving the Scot permission to resume his courtship if he so wished. Vaguely, Henchard had hoped that if the romance could be resumed, with Donald marrying Elizabeth Jane as the end product, then he would thus be rid of her. For some time, Donald did not take advantage of this opportunity. But as his business grew, he thought of a wife, and Elizabeth Jane seemed to fill all his requirements. Moreover, marriage to her might bring about a reconciliation with Henchard, which the young Scot sincerely desired. And so it was that he came calling at High Place Hall. Elizabeth Jane was out, but Lucetta Templeton, who received him, found herself developing a warm interest in the handsome young business rival of Henchard.
You know, Mr. Farfrae, I find you a very interesting young man.
And I find you, Miss Templeton, a charming and beautiful lady.
You speak amenities, of course, but nevertheless it is pleasing to hear them.
I would not call them amenities. No, not exactly.
Well, what else could they be, sir? We've known each other for only such a little while.
True, Miss Templeton, but I'm a man of quick judgment and on the serious side. I put a good deal of store by first impressions. Still, I suppose I've not the right to say things like these.
And why not, Mr. Farfrae?
Let me put it this way. A struggling hay and corn merchant like myself should limit his thoughts to those in keeping with his station. And you, Miss Templeton, are a woman of wealth and good position.
But above all, I am a woman. Never forget that, Mr. Farfrae.
Miss Templeton, I cannot help but read a certain significance in what you just said.
I want you to. As I said, I find you very interesting.
Then I may come another time?
Of course. Come and see Elizabeth Jane any time you like.
I'm not referring to Elizabeth Jane, Miss Templeton. I am referring to you.
Mr. Farfrae, I cannot say any more than this now. The doors of High Place Hall are open to you whenever you choose to come.
The friendship between Lucetta and Donald Farfrae took root and ripened. Lucetta made judicious inquiries around Casterbridge and discovered that Donald was on his way up as a merchant and indeed was giving Henchard a serious struggle. This sharpened her interest in the young Scot even more. She remained affectionate with Elizabeth Jane, but the next time Henchard called, she quickly developed a headache and refused to see him. After a number of rebuffs from Lucetta, Michael Henchard realized that his romance was growing cool. He watched High Place Hall and saw Donald Farfrae admitted by Lucetta time and again. His face darkened in anger, and he realized that his rival once again was humiliating him and interfering with his life. First, he had tried to steal his, Henchard's, business. Now, Farfrae was trying to steal the woman he loved and hoped to marry. Grimly, Michael Henchard demanded to see Lucetta and forced the issue.
Look here, Lucetta. You came to Casterbridge to see me, to resume our old relationship, did you not? Did you or did you not?
Yes, Michael, I did.
Very well, then. I am ready, as soon as custom will permit, to give you my name, in return for your devotion.
Then this is a proposal of marriage?
It is. We have been close to each other, you and I, Lucetta. Perhaps unseemly close and open to gossiping tongues. Now, it is time that chapter was over. I leave it to you to fix the time and date.
Well, I don't know, Michael. It's still early. And marriage is such a serious affair. Perhaps for a time you ought to treat me as an acquaintance, and I'll treat you the same.
Oh?
And...
So that is the way the wind blows, is it?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, do you not?
Michael, what are you trying to say?
I am saying that there is another man, and his name is Donald Farfrae.
Michael, no, it is true that Donald's become my friend.
Enough,
but...
Lucetta. What manner of fool do you take me for? Now then, choose. Who will it be? Farfrae or myself?
Michael, you've no
choose,
right.
Choose, Lucetta, and choose now. No. No, there is no need to say it. I see it in your eyes. You've thrown me over in favor of Farfrae.
You've no right to bind me. I'll not be a slave to the past. I'll love where I choose.
That may be difficult, my dear Lucetta.
What do you mean?
The people of Casterbridge are straight-laced and very proper. If they knew about you and me, what we were to each other, they might resent it.
What? You mean you tell them?
If you married Farfrae, I might.
How could you?
I could and I would. I'd rather see you dead than marry Donald Farfrae. Before I'd let him take you from me, I'd crush you both, like I'd crush two worms under my heavy shoe.
Michael, I can't believe you became...
Then you do not know me, Lucetta, my dear. You do not know what my hate is for Donald Farfrae. Marry him. Only marry him, I say, and you'll find out how Michael Henchard can hate. Think it over, Lucetta. Think it over very carefully, my dear.
Michael!
The NBC University of the Air has brought you the third in a 5-part radio edition of The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. Next week, we'll present the 4th episode. To those of you who have enjoyed this series and are eager to know more about the books we're opening for your pleasure, we suggest you get full value from them by reading Herbert Gorman's Handbook of the World's Great Novels. 25 cents will cover the cost of printing and mailing. Requests for this handbook should be mailed to The World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. The script you have just heard was adapted for radio by Max Ehrlich. Members of the cast included Boris Aplon as Henchard, Alma Platz as Susan, Geraldine Kay as Elizabeth Jane, William Everett as Farfrae, Muriel Bremner as Lucetta, and Donald Gallagher as narrator. Others were Hope Summers, Wilms Herbert, and Fred Sullivan. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom, and the orchestra was conducted by Joseph Galicchio. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. The veteran learned many new skills while in the Army that can be put to excellent use in business and industry. Remember this when employing new men, and investigate those veterans now working for you to see if they're not capable of holding more important and useful positions. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.